would be far more enthusiastic about this trip if Lori were here, but she decided to fly back to Findlay, Wisconsin for her 15th high school reunion. When I warily mentioned that it would also be a chance for her to see her old boyfriends, she smiled and said, "We've got a lot of catching up to do." So it's just Willie and me that the driver drops off at the Beverly Regent Wilshire Hotel. It's a nice enough place, but based on the nightly rate, the fairly average rooms must have buried treasure in the mattresses. But again, the studio is paying, which is one reason the first thing I do is have a $14 can of mixed nuts from the minibar. Since Willie's release from prison brought him some measure of fame, his life has taken some other dramatic turns. In addition to becoming wealthy, he's gotten married, partnered with me in a dog rescue operation, and become part of the very exclusive New York social scene. He and wife Sandra are out every night with what used to be known as the in crowd, though I am so far out that I'm not sure what they're called anymore. He is constantly and unintentionally name-dropping friends in the sports, entertainment, and art worlds, though he comically often has no idea that anyone else has heard of them. Willie's social reach apparently extends across the country, because he invites me to go clubbing tonight with him and a number of his friends. I would rather be clubbed over the head, so I decline and make plans to order room service and watch a baseball game. First I call Lori at her hotel in Findlay, but she's out. I hope she's in the process of marveling at how fat and bald all her old boyfriends have gotten. Next, I call Kevin Randall, who is watching Tara for me while I'm gone. Golden retrievers are the greatest living things on this planet, and Tara is the greatest of all golden retrievers, so that makes her fairly special. I hate leaving her, even for a day, but there was no way I was going to put her in a crate in the bottom of a hot airplane. "Hello?" Kevin answers, his voice raspy. I put him through about 3 or 4 minutes of swearing to me that Tara is doing well, and then I ask him how he's feeling, since his voice maintains that raspy sound. I ask this reluctantly, since Kevin is America's foremost hypochondriac. "I'm okay," he says. I'd love to leave it at that, but it would ruin his night. "You sure?" I ask. "Well," he starts hesitantly, "do you know if humans can catch diseases from dogs?" "Why, is Tara sick?" "I told you she was fine," he says. "We're talking about me now. I seem to have developed a cough." He throws in a couple of hacking noises, just in case I didn't know what he meant by cough. "That definitely sounds like kennel cough," I say. "You should curl up and sleep next to a warm oven tonight, and don't have more than a cup of kibble for dinner." Kevin, who is no dummy, shrewdly figures out that I am going to continue to make fun of him if he pursues this, so he lets me extricate myself from the call. Once I do so, I have dinner and lie down to watch the Dodgers play the Padres. I'm not terribly interested in it, which is why I'm asleep by the 3rd inning. I wake up at 7 and order room service. I get the assorted fresh berries for $21.50. For that price, I would have expected twin Halle berries. The same driver and limo show up at 9 in the morning to take Willie and me to the studio. We are eventually ushered into the office of Greg Burrows, president of production at the studio. With him are a room full of his colleagues, each with a title like Executive Vice President or Senior Vice President. There seems to be an endless supply of gloriously titled executives. It turns out that the overflow crowd is there merely as a show of how important we are to them, and everybody but Greg and the senior VP named Eric Anderson soon melts away. Greg is probably in his late 30s, and my guess is he has 10 years on Eric. "Eric will be the production executive on this project," Greg informs. "He shares my passion for it." Eric nods earnestly, confirming that passion, as if we had any doubt. Willie's been uncharacteristically quiet, but he decides to focus in on that which is important. "Who's going to play me?" Greg smiles. "Well, who did you have in mind?" "Denzel Washington," says Willie without any hesitation. He's obviously given it some thought. "I can see that." Greg nods, then looks at Eric, whose identical nod indicates that he too can see it. "The thing is, Will, we don't start to deal with casting until we have a script and director in place, but it's a really good thought." Eric directs a question at Will. "I hope you don't mind my asking, but do you have a mother?" Willie shakes his head. "Nah, used to." "Well, Eric says. I hope I'm not talking out of turn, and this is just me speaking off the top of my head, but I was thinking it would be really great if you had a mother. Interesting, says Greg, as if this is the first time he has heard this idea. Well, it ain't that interesting to me, says Willie. My mother took off when I was 3 and left me in a bus station. I ain't got no family. Eric nods. I understand, and again, I'm just thinking out loud off the top of my head, but for the sake of the story, if your mother was there, supporting you the whole time you were in prison, believing in you... Willie is starting to get annoyed, which in itself does not qualify as a rare occurrence. Yeah, she could have baked me fucking cupcakes, and we could have had a party in the prison. I intervene, partially because I'm concerned that Willie might throw Greg and Eric out of the 5th-story window, and they might bounce off the top of their heads. The other reason I jump in is that they are all alluding to an area in which I have a real concern, which is taking dramatic license and changing the characters and events. I've heard about the extraordinary liberties Hollywood can take with true stories, and I don't want to wind up being portrayed as the lead lawyer of the transvestite wing of Hamas. We hash this out for a while, and they assure me that the contract will address my concerns. We agree on a price, and they tell me that a writer will be assigned and will want to go back east to meet and get to know all of us. I stand up. So, that's it? Eric smiles and shakes my hand. That's it. Let's make a movie. The flight home is boring and uneventful, which I view as a major positive when it comes to airplane flights. The movie doesn't appeal to me, so I don't put on the headphones. I then spend the next 2 hours involuntarily trying to lip-read everything the characters are saying. Unfortunately, the movie is Dr. Dolittle 2, and my mouse lip-reading skills are not that well developed. Willie, for his part, uses the time to refine his casting choices. On further reflection, he now considers Denzel too old, and is leaning toward Will Smith or Ben Affleck, though he has some doubts that Ben could effectively play a black guy. I suggest that as soon as he gets home, he call Greg and Eric to discuss it. Moments after we touch the ground, a flight attendant comes over and leans down to speak with me. Mr. Carpenter, she asks. I get a brief flash of worry. Yes? There will be someone waiting at the gate to meet you. You have an urgent phone call. Who is it? I ask. I'm sorry, I don't really know, but I'm sure everything is fine. I would take more comfort from her assurances if she knew what the call was about. I fluctuate between intense worry and panic the entire time we taxi to the gate, which seems to take about 4 hours. As soon as the plane comes to a halt, Willie and I jump out of our seats and are the first people off the plane. Somebody who works for airline security is there to meet us, and he leads us to one of those motorized carts. We all jump in and are whisked away. Do you know what's going on? I ask. The security guy shrugs slightly. I'm not sure. I think it's about that football player. Before I have a chance to ask what the hell he could possibly be talking about, we arrive at an airport security office. We're led into a back office where another security guy stands holding a telephone, which he hands to me. Hello, I say into the phone, dreading what I might hear on the other end. It took you long enough. The voice is that of Lieutenant Pete Stanton, my closest and only friend in the Patterson Police Department. I'm somewhat relieved already. Pete wouldn't have started the conversation that way if he had something terrible to tell me. What the hell is going on? I ask. Kenny Schilling wants to talk to you, and only you. So you better get your ass out here. If possible, my level of confusion goes up a notch. Kenny Schilling is a running back for the Giants, a third-round pick a few years ago who is just blossoming into a star. I've never met the man, though I know Willie counts him as one of his 4 or 5 million social friends. Kenny Schilling? I ask. Why would he want to talk to me? It looks like Schilling killed Troy Preston. Right now he's holed up in his house with enough firepower to supply the 3rd Infantry, and every cop in New Jersey outside waiting to blow his head off. Except me, I'm on the phone because I made the mistake of saying I knew you. Why does he want me? I ask. How would he even know my name? He didn't. He asked for that hotshit lawyer that's friends with Willie Miller. An airport security car is waiting to take us to Upper Saddle River, which is where they tell us Kenny Schilling lives, and they assure us that our bags will be taken care of. Once in the car, I turn on the radio to learn more about the situation and discover that it is all anyone is talking about. Troy Preston.